Hello everybody, welcome to Homeopathy for the Home. It has been a bit delayed, what with COVID and all, but we are finally here, we're finally online. Now, you will have been sent, as delegates, you've been sent the printed pages of the journal. It used to be a booklet, and now it's pages that you can print yourself. It might seem like a lot of a nuisance, but I really would encourage you to do so. Print it out, take your notes, and stick them in a journal of your size, and make notes. Make notes of things that mean things to you, because this is your own personal journey. So we have to ask, why are people here? Why are people attending a course where they learn about homeopathy? Well, there's two groups of you. There are the people who are disillusioned and they're tired of over-medicating their families, and they're tired of having no choices when it comes to what happens when something goes wrong medically in the family. And there's another group who are already old hats at seeing homeopaths and have done homeopathy in their family as their personal choice of medicine for generations. Now, both of you have a good reason for being here. The first group, this is to empower you. This course is designed to help you learn to cope with most things that happen with the health of your family on your own, to know that you can cope, that it's not scary and it's not something that isn't something you can cope with on your own. And the second group, well, this is going to give you a large insight into a lot of different remedies and a broader picture of how homeopathy works, and to broaden your knowledge base. And please remember at any time during this course that if there are any questions at all, please don't think that there's a bad question. I want to know there's a group of people in the background as panelists, and they are here to answer your questions. My name is Chiquita. I should have said that at the beginning. My name is Chiquita. I'm a homeopath. I've been in private practice for 20 years, and there is no questions that I have not seen. So don't think that your questions are weird and anything that you share or ask about is going to be uncomfortable for anybody. There's no such thing as an embarrassed homeopath. We have been and seen and heard it all. So at any time, put your questions in the chat box at the bottom and somebody will help you with that. If it's not answered by the end of the lecture, then it's something that really needs to be, that you need to ask. But very often the questions that we know are coming, we've incorporated what needs to be told within the lecture. So I'd like to encourage you to make notes. This journal is yours. The information that I give you is not going to mean the same to everybody, and some things are going to mean more to some and less to others, and other things are going to be, wow, I really want that piece of information and I can't forget it. Write it down. Make colored notes. This is that opportunity to go off to a stationery shop and buy those colored pens that you've been lusting after and you haven't had an excuse to buy. Do it now. Print your pages if you haven't already, and make notes and embrace it as an opportunity to learn and to grow in managing the health of your family. So during this time, we're going to talk about things that I call red flag symptoms. Now, red flags are obviously not a good thing. This course is not designed to turn you into a homeopath. It's not designed to turn you into a GP. It's not designed to turn you into a nurse. It's designed to help you manage everyday health things that you should feel comfortable managing. There are going to be times, however, when you should not be a hero and you should seek medical professional assistance, please. And every time that happens, I will say, you need to go and, if this is what's happening, you need to go and talk to somebody. Please write those down. Don't just ignore them and go, oh, yeah, whatever. You need to pay attention to that. There will also be time limits to how long it should take for the homeopathic remedies that you're using to take effect. If it's not helping within a specific amount of time, you need to go and speak to somebody. Then we're going to tackle different chapters. We're not going to do everything all at once because it's a little bit overwhelming. And only when your kids at school can you sit for 2 and 3 and 4 hours of lectures at a time. They get bored and you kind of lose them in the classroom. But I found with lecturing adults that an hour, half an hour online and about an hour is in real life is, and then you need more coffee. So what I'm going to suggest you do, we've cut this down into half an hour as the longest lecture in the series, but make sure you've got something to drink. And because it's in the comfort of your own home, make sure you are comfortable. Then we're going to obviously go through the different chapters. So let's talk about the different approach that homeopaths have to sickness in general, because we don't look at your body the same way as allopathic doctors do. We have a different approach to sickness and a different approach to health. And what we think of what your body is doing is very, very different. And that fundamental difference is what you're here to learn about. So it's a different approach. Let's make an assumption right at the beginning that your body is perfect. The body of your child is perfect. It is DNA, inbred DNA programming with instincts, and it knows what it's doing. We are a successful model. Whether you believe the religious model or you believe in evolution, we are a model of success. Whether we were designed or we evolved, we are a successful model, and our instincts and our DNA are a good idea. So what your body decides to do in any given situation is a good idea. But there is a caveat. So if your body is perfect, it's designed to live in a specific environment in a specific way, and we need to respect that. So with the correct diet, with a healthy, active lifestyle, enough sunlight, and I cannot stress this enough, this is very important. Let's assume that when you look after your body enough, that it is given the opportunity to be healthy, it's going to respond to disease threats in a good way. And sometimes it might be a little bit uncomfortable. You've been told by pharmaceutical companies that there is a pill for everything. You never have to be uncomfortable a moment in your life. This is not necessarily a good idea. Your body makes those things that we get symptoms. Those symptoms are there as a reason. Your body is fighting something. It's trying to fix a problem. And the symptoms are how it fixes that. So we don't want to just say, no, and squish all the symptoms. We want to encourage your body to finish the process that it has started. The basis of homeopathy is that we are going to trust your body to know what it's doing and encourage that natural healing process. So you get sick. And we have all these inborn, inbred, DNA deep reflexes and behaviors that help us fight disease and disease threats. So if someone in the office sneezes, we've all just been through, well, we're still in the middle of a pandemic. So we are now hyper conscious of how droplet spray spreads, how a mask is going to help us from inhaled things. But before this, people didn't pay attention. But when somebody around you sneezed and you felt that tiny droplet spray hit your skin, there was always this instinctive ew reaction. And when you see a little person sneeze, now before any of you get a gag reflex, let's change the picture. So now you have an instinctive reaction to that. You go, you close your eyes, washing viruses that might have landed on your cornea. You wash them down and into your tear ducts. You take a step backwards, you close your mouth, and you breathe out through your nose, reducing viral exposure. All of those, and ew, don't go near that, don't touch. We don't instinctively rush towards a child that is slimy like that. We look around for the parent responsible. We don't automatically go, oh, shame, let me tidy it up. Those instincts are a good idea. They are reducing your viral exposure. Now, another one is the upchuck reflex. So if someone around you is vomiting and gagging, it's very hard not to do it yourself, especially a whole group of toddlers. Now, people think, oh, that's awful. It's a terrible reflex. Why is that a good idea? It's a very good idea because humans are still Paleolithic. We're still the same sort of physiology we were 10,000 years ago. And at the time, we were hunter-gatherers and we were mobile in the environment. And by the time they're 2.5, kids are running around learning to forage for themselves. They're part of the group, but they're learning to be what's good to eat and what's not. So when one of them eats something that is a bad idea, 10 to 1, the others in the group have also eaten it. So when they start to vomit and the others hear the vomiting and they start to vomit as well, that is a good reflex. Often you can also see it when groups of girlfriends go off to the bathroom and one of them's had far too much to drink and she starts upchucking in the bathroom and the others start to down the rest of the stalls. That is a good instinct. They have consumed too much stuff that is poisonous and it's a good idea. So the vomit reflex is a good idea. There's also inbred responses and reflex behaviors that we can observe when exposed to viruses. Now, this virus, which looks like a crystal chandelier, it's quite beautiful actually. This is influenza. It's very pretty. It actually looks like this. It's a very pretty virus, and we have evolved alongside it. We have learned, and our bodies have very good programming on how to deal with this specific virus. So, what happens? When you are exposed to flu, your body goes through a series of behaviors and instinctive things that help you to manage fighting off that virus. So, I explain to my patients that your body is like a 12-volt battery. It is going to only have 12 volts to work with on a daily basis. 6 volts of that is going to be used by things like survival. So your blood flow, your brain function, your lungs, your blood vessels, your muscle movement that keeps you upright. All of those things are normal functions that have to be there all the time, otherwise you die. That's 6 volts, survival. The other 6 volts is used for things that aren't necessary, essential all the time. So digestion, we don't need to digest all the time. Muscle function, being active. Social interaction takes energy. It's necessary. So when you start to feel at the idea of the prospect of a social engagement. So when you've been exposed to flu, the first thing that starts to happen is you start to get antisocial. Do we have to? And the bride that you were thrilled to be making a potato bake on Friday evening, you couldn't wait to go and see your friends and have a glass of wine and have some potato bake. It suddenly seems like an awful lot of work. You may not feel anything else yet, but that, I don't want people, because people take energy. Sometimes when you've got nothing left, when we talk about stress, that this will come up again, that I don't want to be around humans. That's because it takes energy. So you've been exposed to flu, we get antisocial. Then we get tired. You're doing too much, and the 12-volt battery is not enough for all the things that you're trying to do. So the body says, sorry, I need energy, please. You get a headache. It's from dehydration. You get thirsty. Your body is now asking for fluid, please. Loss of appetite, because digestion takes energy away from fighting the virus. Most of us, to be fair, have enough onboard stored calories to not eat if we're not hungry. So if you're not hungry and you don't feel well, don't eat. If little people say to you, don't feed kids when they're not hungry, especially if there's a fever on the way. A fever is a good idea. We love a fever. We love a fever. A fever is your body's way of cooking viruses so that they die quickly at the beginning of a cold, or the beginning of a flu, or the beginning of a problem. It cooks the virus, it dies, and then there's no more virus. And there's no more viruses to divide within your tissue and make more viruses that you have to kill later on. If you don't get the fever, and that's not how they die, they end up getting swallowed and killed off by white cells. And what we do to get rid of those white cells is they die, and they kamikaze and they kill the virus, but they also die and they leak out your nose, and that's where the snot starts to change. So the runny nose is actually a good idea. You're losing viral tissue, you're losing dead white cells. It's not a bad thing to get a runny nose. So when you take something to quickly dry it up because it's inconvenient, that's not a good idea. And a cough. People go, oh, coughs are terrible. Coughs are there for a reason. It's a reflex on purpose to stop the mucus sliding down the back of your throat from getting in your chest. So don't stop a cough. It's there for a reason. It might be uncomfortable. It might be a nuisance, but your body knows what it's doing. It knows what it's doing. Right. If you haven't seen this movie, this is I, Robot from the Asimov book, and the movie stars Will Smith. I like to imagine and explain the immune system to patients by using this picture as an analogy. This is your immune system, and all of these are white cells that have helped you fight off different viruses. And you've got a patch. For every time you win against a virus, your body produces a patch. Now, when you're little and you haven't been exposed to a lot of people other than friends and family, you end up with a few of these. And then mom sends you off at 2.5 to creche, and you end up with what we call creche syndrome. You get a runny nose and a runny nose and a runny nose and a runny nose and a cough and a sniffle and a runny nose. And people call it creche syndrome. I call them repeat offenders. And eventually they stop getting sick and they start looking like this. So every time they win against a new virus, they get a new one. And eventually, by the time you're in high school, you look like this guy, and you've had a lot of viruses and you've fought them all off and you're fine. You can often see this in people in pediatric private practice. And women in their 40s who've got kids or been around a lot of children, they don't get coughs and sniffles very often anymore. They'll say, no, I haven't had a cold in about 3 or 4 years. That's because they've had most of the colds and they've beaten those colds and they've got patches. That's how your immune system learns when it's allowed to fight off a virus and win. So the most basic homeopathic principle is like cures like. And this is where the trust in your body comes in. We like to use the example of an onion. When you cut an onion, you get that oil that seeps into the air when you're cutting an onion, and it lands on your eyes and inside your nose, and your eyes start to water and they start to burn and they start to leak acid tears, and your nose starts to run and you start to feel like you need to escape from the onion and go outside. That feeling is very much akin to what happens when you get hay fever. Now, we use allium cepa, or the red onion, we use allium cepa to treat acute forms of hay fever. Not every person has exactly the same picture, but we use that remedy to treat that kind of symptom because we want to encourage your body to finish a process. It creates those allergy symptoms for a reason. It's doing it for a purpose. It knows what it's doing, and we want to encourage that process. But we don't want to give you a large dose, because then we would make you worse. And that's just mean. So we don't want to make your allergies any worse than they already are. Thank you very much. So we dilute it. We dilute it 1 in 100 or 1 in 10. And the more we dilute it, the more likely we are to nudge your body in the right direction. We want to encourage the process. We don't want to force the process. Homeopathy is encouraging your body to heal itself by encouraging the processes that it knows what to do. We are not making something happen. So we are not going to bludgeon your system and push it in a direction it doesn't want to go. We're not forcing anything. And people say, your body is going to listen to micro doses of substance. I'll give you an example. When you turn a little boy into a man, the dilution of testosterone to achieve that is an extraordinary dilution. It's 10 to the minus 13. That means 1 and 13 zeros, 1 part per that, which is an enormously tiny dose of testosterone, can turn a boy into a man. Huge difference. But over time, it's a microdose and a microdose and a microdose, and you get a profound difference. Women need a slightly larger dose of estrogen to turn a little girl into a woman. It's 10 to the minus 7. So that would be 10 parts, part per 10 billion, 1 part per 10 billion. Will turn a child into a woman, capable of producing more humans. So your body is going to listen to very small amounts of substance quite easily. It's a nudge. We're nudging your body in the right direction. We are not nudging it elsewhere. And that's why people say, oh, it's homeopathic, it's safe. That's fine. As a concept, that works very nicely. Homeopathic, yes, because we can nudge you in the direction your body doesn't want to go, and nothing's going to happen. It's barreling down the road in one way, and you can nudge all you like. Nothing is going to change. It has no side effects. We are not going to make something happen. Therefore, we are not going to make you have symptoms that you didn't have in the first place. It's a nudge. So people talk about natural medicine. Oh, it's natural, it's safe. That is a concept that is wrong, just plain wrong. It's a load of codswallop. It was used by various and sundry firms for advertising. It's a homeopathic concept. If you take a herb, it is still an appreciable quantity of alkaloid material that your body will respond to as a force. It is going to make things happen. It will use the chemical processes in your body the same way allopathic drugs do. It is not necessarily safe. People talk about, oh, it's natural. Oleander is natural. It's deadly poisonous and it will kill you. Mercury is natural. Sulfur is natural. The idea of natural, it's safe, no. Homeopathic, yes, you may use that and know that it is not going to hurt you. When you walk into the natural health section of a pharmacy, there is an incredible selection of stuff available. I always tell people you need to research what you are going to put in your body. You need to know what the doctor is telling you. You need to know what the homeopath is telling you. You need to know what the specialist is telling you. You need to own your own health. And if you're going to buy a product, you need to research it very carefully. If the website's got a lot of testimonials, it might be something to avoid. And you need to make sure that what's in the bottle is what's on the label. That's also very important. So in the old days, people used to know that natural stuff, because all medicines was natural, all the herbal stuff was kept behind the counter. It was very, 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 very clear to everybody that it wasn't something you should just play with yourself. You needed advice and you need to know what you were taking. And they respected that some of the things were dangerous. So you've decided, right, that's the end of that, and we are going the natural route, and we are no longer taking any heavy medication, etc., etc. And it's all very well when you get sick and you send hubby off to the pharmacy, bless him, and he reads all the labels, and they all look fantastic. And he's not sure. So he just makes a selection, and he comes home like a conquering hero. Lots and lots of bottles, and you end up with pill salad. Unfortunately, in South Africa, the control of the natural section is still coming, and you need to take personal responsibility that what you are taking is actually what you are taking, and that it is not going to interfere with anything else. So please bear in mind that not all natural is safe. Homeopathic, absolutely. The rest, please be careful. Then, this is man flu, ladies. This is very serious. Do not laugh. Do not snigger. It is very serious. And now you want your family to stay on the natural path. And he's lying there. He's vulnerable. He can't leave. So you can dose him. That's fine. And your resolve to stay away from heavy medication is not really a problem now. But what happens when little people start getting sick? What happens now? Then your confidence starts to shake and waver a little bit. And tiny people screaming in the middle of the night is pretty scary. What I want you to remember is that we have been programmed by images from the media for generations. That you don't have to worry about the health of your family. Someone else will take responsibility for it. You don't have to make decisions. You don't have to do anything. There's a pill for everything, and it's not your problem. It is someone else's problem, and you can pay them to fix it. Yeah. Unfortunately, with that message also came the message that you can't cope on your own. You are not enough. And that is where this course comes in. I would like to help you take back ownership of your family's health. And you can ask Mom, but she was bombarded with these pictures. And she was also indoctrinated in the fact that she doesn't have to do anything. You have to go back a whole nother generation. So when the phone is right there and you can just get hold of the pediatrician and say, I'm going the next day, I want you to stop and remember, just wait. Your great-grandmother knew exactly what she was doing, and she trusted herself. She was an empowered, knowledgeable woman who knew that when things went wrong, she could cope with most stuff. When it was dire, when it was urgent, she would take it off to the appropriate person, the doctor in town, but she did not automatically assume that she couldn't cope on her own. These were the people who baked their own bread. These were the people who took their homeopathics very seriously. And these were the people who fixed their own clothes. They knew that they could cope. And we need to own that again. We need to take it back. And that's what this course is all about, is to start you on a journey of owning the health in your family. So you can manage most everyday health challenges yourself. A little bit of homeopathic help and a dose of confidence. I don't expect you, by any stretch of the imagination, to know everything all at once. That's not a realistic expectation, but I'd like you to start feeling like it's a possibility in the future that you could cope on your own. And that's what this course is all about. The next one we're going to have, the next lecture will be about colds and flu, and dealing with viruses and preparing your body for viruses, and the common homeopathic remedies used to deal with colds and flu symptoms. And I hope to see you all there. If you haven't printed out your journal, please do so. Thank you very much.